Hello, and in today's video, I got a question for you. Who is the Antichrist? This is a purely speculative video, but I've got an analogy I want to walk you through here, but before I get to that, I want to say who I don't think the Antichrist is. If you look up or you see videos, who is the Antichrist? Usually you'll see some high profile political or financial figure presented as the Antichrist. I do not believe that Obama is the Antichrist, or Trump is the Antichrist, or Biden, or Emmanuel Macron, or Justin Trudeau, or King Charles, or George Soros, or Charles Schwab, or probably anybody else that anybody is speculating. To me, these people represent useful idiots that will be used by the beast and his coming system. I believe that the rapture is near, very near. We are in the last minutes of the last days. And as such, the Antichrist is probably alive and well and in some type of position. But he's unknown to us. The beast is possibly some bureaucrat in the UN. To illustrate this, I'm going to use a pop culture analogy, and that is Star Wars. If that Star Wars is one of my guilty pleasures. It's a series I grew up on as a kid, and I'll be mainly talking about the prequel series, which was in its day in the 90s and early 2000s when it was released. It was criticized by critics for, oh, the politics is boring and all that stuff. But I think the politics makes a good analogy. At the end of this video, I'll have a link. There's a kid, he's actually a high school senior. A couple years ago, he's now in college, hopefully, made a really great deep analysis of the politics of Star Wars. His channel is Arkin the American, and I will link that video because he takes the time to take clips and stuff. Truth is, I do this on the side. I don't have a production team behind me, and I don't have the hours to do all the editing, even though I think I could do it have the ability to do it. And I also, fair use doctrine as far as copyright law is so ambiguous. I don't know how it would affect if I start putting Star Wars clips in my videos. I don't want that to happen. So if you want to see a video with Star Wars clips and stuff like that, and that'll excite you, and it's more from a secular point of view, not a religious point of view, check his channel out. I watched this video a year, 2 years ago. I kind of rewatched it a little bit just to refresh my memory on a couple things. And to kind of make sure there was no really offensive content, and I didn't see any offensive content. So, if you like Star Wars and you've seen most of the Star Wars, I'll talk about the animated series. Most adults haven't seen that. Yes, I'm a Star Wars nerd. I've watched those too. But, if you've seen just the movies, this analogy should make sense. We know that George Lucas, he used a lot of religious and mythological sources and current events and stuff as the inspiration for his Star Wars saga, episodes 1 through 6. Not getting into the Disney Star Wars stuff, talking about the older stuff. That was all done by George Lucas, written by George Lucas. So in episode 1, we start off and we see that we have this galactic republic. And to me, this galactic republic is like the UN. It's all talk and very little action. And a crisis comes up. And people today, and I made a video yesterday about this SDG summit that's coming up, and everybody's very excited about that. Think about this. If the UN is as powerful as, I think we're giving the UN too much credit right now. If the UN was as powerful as many think, why is there a war in Ukraine? Why doesn't the UN tell Putin, back down, Zelensky, back down? The UN is made up of a bunch of delegates that get sent by their countries. In the Star Wars universe, the Galactic Republic is a government made up of senators sent from various planets. So if you take planets and think of countries with sovereign leadership sending delegates to a unified body, that's what the UN is. And what you have in the first Star Wars movie is you have this little planet, Naboo, that gets blockaded by a corporate entity called the Trade Federation. And the queen, the sovereign leader, I wonder what kind of people live in Naboo that they let a teenage girl be their sovereign leader, but that's a whole nother topic. Basically, they blockade it. She escapes, ship gets damaged. They end up in Tatooine, which is where they run into Anakin Skywalker, who is a slave in a galaxy where slavery is supposed to be outlawed, just like we have in the world today. There's no country that allows slavery, but watch movies like The Sound of Freedom and you'll see that there is definitely slavery in this world and an underground slave trade going on. So basically, finally, the Queen Amidala gets to Coruscant, the capital of the Galactic Republic. And Senator Palpatine, her representative that was sent to this united body, but doesn't really have any power to do anything, says, well, they can't really do anything, the bureaucracy, and he's not lying. That's the sad part. He's not actually wrong. Yes, he's using this situation to manipulate. So she goes before the Senate and she's telling them about this problem. They've blockaded, they're killing my people. Do something to help. And a bunch of people come up and start saying, well, you know what? We want to have verification that what she says is true, is really what's going on. Let's launch a commission. Let's have a study. Let's look into these claims. Let's investigate these claims before we do any type of action. And so Senator Palpatine whispers in her ear and says, see, this is exactly what I was talking about. It's all a bureaucracy. Nothing's going to change. So she puts a motion on the floor to have a vote of no confidence against the sitting Chancellor Valorum. And I know I'm probably way too nerdy for a lot of you in my audience, but I'm going somewhere with this. And that causes Valorum, the current Chancellor, to get removed. And you see earlier in the film, she really didn't want to do this. She was talked into this by this Senator Palpatine because, he had been supportive of her, but with all these voices coming from all these other senators, he always caves under the pressure. So Senator Palpatine, in the background, and if you've read some of the Star Wars books, you see that there's some other things in place. It's also interesting, there's a novel called Darth Plagueis, which is about Palpatine's master under the Sith side, and it's interesting that that Darth Plagueis is specialty was finance. And that's how he kind of manipulated and stuff, got Palpatine into a position that Palpatine now all of a sudden becomes Chancellor. And because he's the senator from Naboo, he has a vested interest. He really doesn't do anything. Queen Amidala actually goes back with the Jedi, and Anakin, it's kind of cheesy, but he takes out the droid control ship. They actually save themselves, but he comes in on the back of that victory, riding in like on a white horse, accepting claim for that victory. Then we get into episode 2, also known as Attack of the Clones. And in this, we've got a crisis. You still got the same bureaucracy and bickering. Palpatine's a little bit older. They actually used makeup to kind of show that the wear that this was taking. And the problem is Palpatine can't get anything done because he doesn't have enough power to do stuff. And he doesn't have an army at his disposal to stop all these people from leaving the Galactic Republic. So a lot of it deals with, Anakin and Padme falling in love and, her assassination plots, because she's one of the strongest voices opposing him getting this power. But eventually, he gets power. And then we learn in the background that him, under his alter ego, Darth Sidious, has been manipulating things behind the scenes to create this clone army that just, the moment he gets the votes in the Senate to give him all this power, voila, I happen to have this army just sitting right here waiting for the day that this power came to pass. In the Clone Wars animated series, you see over and over in that the Republic is not always righteous, and they're just as bad as the people they're fighting for. The conflict in Star Wars is essentially people succeeding, becoming separatists, and trying to reunify and forcing people to unify. In reality, I think that all the disasters and stuff we read about, those are going to be the things that are going to be driving the UN, possibly, or some other organization that takes the UN's place to make these types of decisions. Also, side note, we always talk about the tribulation being 7 years, and it is 7 years. It's known as the time of Jacob's trouble. I've done a couple of videos. I made a video yesterday, and I've talked about this. I believe that the rapture of the church is going to cause a bunch of chaos, and in the chaos, that's going to allow Antichrist to be revealed and stuff. If I'm using my Star Wars analogy here, could it be, I could be wrong, there's nothing that ties particular seal judgments and stuff to the 7-year period of time. It could be that those seals are being opened and you're not actually in the tribulation. You had the rapture. You've got wars, you've got famines, you've got plagues, and you have this beast get revealed, the Antichrist get revealed. So, the 7-year mark starts when I believe Antichrist signs a covenant with Israel. And I think it will be a covenant signed in a world that is in major chaos. We don't know exactly where to place the battle of Gog and Magog. Could that happen before the rapture? Could it happen after the rapture? We don't know for sure. But could the battle of Gog and Magog be just one of the many little wars happening, and the Antichrist, his action with Israel is to sign some type of treaty that puts an end to their conflict? And I talked about in yesterday's video, I know some people are saying the SDG goals for Agenda 2030, those are, it's a 7-year time frame. Daniel says he will make a covenant with many. But like I said in yesterday's video, I think the important thing to focus on, it's he makes the covenant. I think it's going to be the Antichrist actually makes the covenant, not his bureaucratic system that exists today. Anyway, back to the analogy. So Palpatine's now got basically, he's got an army, he's got, more authority, more control, and he's exerting that control through the galactic army of the Republic. And then we get to episode 3. And Chancellor Palpatine, in the beginning of that movie, he gets given even more power. He basically gets unlimited power to make him essentially a dictator, except he's not a dictator yet. Well, he is. He's acting like a dictator, but he's got the power of a dictator. He's been given absolute final authority. And the Jedi, when the war looks like they've defeated all the generals that are leading the opposing faction, and he won't give up any of his power, so the Jedi come in and try to stop him. And in the fight, he gets wounded. He starts shooting lightning out of his fingers at Mace Windu. Lightning bounces back. His face becomes all disfigured and he's wounded, but he recovers. And now he's revealed to have supernatural powers. If you read the books and comics and watch some of the animated series and some of the later movies, everybody knows that this Palpatine guy, he's not just a normal guy. He's got all kinds of weird mystical powers. So, and what does he do? He forms the Galactic Empire. Immediately, he dissolves, well, it's actually episode 4, he officially dissolves the Senate, but he reorganizes the Galactic Republic, the Democratic Republic, into the first Galactic Empire. And his first action is to slaughter all his enemies. He issues Order 66, which basically has all the clone troopers turn on the Jedi and kill, and he wipes out most of them. One of the newer series, The Bad Batch, it's an animated series on Disney Plus. One thing that's interesting, it basically takes up where episode 3 ends. You actually see in animated form some of the things from episode 3, like the formation of the Galactic Republic. And you see these soldiers who weren't quite brainwashed by this chip that's been placed in their head to assassinate their basically Jedi generals. But one thing that is quickly happens after this Galactic Empire is formed, there's something that they call in the Star Wars universe called chain codes. And every citizen is required to sign up for a chain code that will allow them to have a job, buy, sell, travel, and that actually becomes a plot point in some of the first few episodes because these soldiers, they're essentially disobeying orders because they didn't do what they're supposed to and they're on the run and they're having to operate in this world where they can't really be known. So now, before you say, oh my gosh, this guy on YouTube, he is crazy. He's talking Star Wars and the Rapture and all this stuff. Don't take this analogy too far. George Lucas, it's documented, he used Buddhist and Shinto religious inspiration for the Jedi. So don't take this analogy too far, thinking I'm saying that the Jedis are Christians. That's not what I'm saying here. But what I am saying, did George Lucas, whether intentionally or not, did he show us a possible scenario how a person like the Antichrist could rise to power. I think it's a good analogy, as good as any other speculation video out there. But the bottom line is we don't know who the Antichrist is. We don't know who the beast is. I believe he is unknown until he gets revealed. But the reason I like this Star Wars analogy is, you see in Star Wars, you've got the man, his name is Sheev Palpatine. He has an alter ego, Darth Sidious, that he uses to play the other side, and he gets disfigured, becoming horribly ugly, just the embodiment of evil. And he's considered in all of cinema one of the greatest movie villains of all times. So the Antichrist, he's going to be no different. The Antichrist, he is going to be the most evil, despicable person that's ever been. There's been some bad ones throughout history. You've had Titus, you've had Antiochus Epiphanes, you've had Hitler, you've had Stalin. The Antichrist is going to make all these evil men look like Boy Scouts at the end of the day. And his power will be absolute, and he will rule over this world for a short period of time. But let me know what you think. Are you a Star Wars fan? Did my analogy make sense? And don't forget, check out over here or there, whichever way I put it on the thing. Don't forget to check out that Arkin, the American guy's video. It's a good video if you're interested in politics. It's over an hour long, so it's longer than this video. And like always, feel free to comment, like, share, subscribe. And if you want to be notified when I upload videos, make sure to hit that notification bell. So until next time, have a great day.